You're tuned to the sounds of RFAT. Yo, what's good? It's me, your daddy, Roberto. It's Adam Pecora here. Welcome to another exciting, tantalating. I say tantalating a lot. And what a great descriptive word for this show. Welcome to Requiem for a Tuesday. We got a lot to get into today. I'm very excited. First things first. I was opening a yerb. It was hard. I thought I could do it right away, and then my goyim fell out. But yeah. RFAT.paycartel.com. Cop some merch. We got some good stuff on there. I got nice little baggies. Going on your picnics this summer. You know, you need a little baggie, little swaggy baggie. Show all the honeys you be flossing. Pens, stickers. What else do we got? There's pins. You like flair? You work at TGI Fridays? Spruce it up. Ooh, I will say, what a missed reference when I was talking about Jennifer Aniston movies. Forgot Office Space. But, you know, not that, like, that could have been anybody. And that's pretty much true for all Jennifer Aniston roles. It's like, yeah, that could have been somebody else, and this movie would not be any worse. You know? The Breakup is probably her best movie, like, for her. It's not the best movie she's in. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, please rate, review, subscribe to the show. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We got a YouTube channel, got some video stuff on there. Not a lot, but all the episodes are there in audio form. A couple other things as well. And yeah, there's music. I make music. I do stuff. I have fun. All linked in the description below. Everything I just listed. Please check all that stuff out. You know, I'm out here making stuff, making things. Not content. We don't use that word around here. Exponential growth only. Don't forget that. Content is for Marvel and OnlyFans. That's it. We don't use that. Marty Scorsese doesn't make content. You know? And I don't either. And that's that. Speaking of content, what the main story is going to be today, at some point when we get there, just wrapped up last night as of this recording, Mare of Easttown. I have a lot of thoughts. So we're going to dive into those thoughts. That's going to be fun. But at release time, asterisk, I'll technically be a week late, but I'm doing it fresh. It just ended last night. In fact, there's going to be spoilers, so it's probably better that this is coming out a week later anyway, because then we can cover all bases. Like, if you haven't caught up a week after the finale, then I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? You watch one episode a day after the finale, you're good. So that's going to be a thing. But yeah, just a reminder for present day peoples that it's banked. So we're hitting the road, baby. Just no road sodas this time. I do got to say, people have been asking me, oh, hey, Adam. And I'm like, hey, guy or gal, whichever you may be. They say, oh, I know you're the vax daddy and you got the juice. You be getting shot up. I got tetanus. I got smallpox. I got polio. I got COVID. You know what I mean? I got them all. So they come to me and they're like, oh, what are the side effects? Right? They want to know because it's scary. I get it. You're taking a leap of faith. And I looks him in the eyes and I says to him, I says, you know, your arm's a little sore. Don't make the same mistake I did. You know, use your non-dominant arm. Because it'll be a lot worse if you use your good arm. And you would think that that would be common knowledge and logic, but no, didn't even cross my mind. I was like, yep, this is the way the chair's facing, so I'll just sit down. Learned, though, fool me once. Classic catchphrase there. And then, as long as you can manage a little shoulder soreness, you should be all right. Second dose, I got the night sweats. I was cold, shivers, wet. Wasn't pleasant, but, couple nights. That was it. 3, maybe. And then we're good. But there is one major side effect that I have noticed coming in the long term. So this is just my PSA to all you peoples out there thinking about your health. Because boy, oh boy, man, oh man, ever since shot number 2, my Biden special, as time goes on, I just feel more and more an increasing amount of patriotism coursing through my veins. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back, okay? And I'm thrilled, you know what I mean? I just keep finding myself hyping up the good old US of A. Not that anything has really changed. I can basically explain why. So, we're the laughing stock of the entire world for 4 years. Pretty rough, It's embarrassing. You keep looking at the news. It's like, oh, come on. Give me a break. You know what I mean? Like, it's like going to the mall with your mom, and she's like, look at these pants, And it's like, Jesus Christ. Is that just me? Anyway. So, that was brutal. And we're finally out of that. And, the COVID stuff wasn't going well. That was also, kept more and more. Just the embarrassment just mounting and mounting. You're trapped in your house. It's like, come on. This is pretty rough. And then all of a sudden, things start clicking into place. You get somebody with some cachet in there, making all the right moves at all the right times. Things are looking pretty great, kind of crushing it right now. And now look at everybody else. Oh, hey, can we have some medicine, please? And you know what I say? I say, fuck them. They all just come crawling back. Look who needs help all of a sudden. No, thank you. That's right. I'm fucking repping my boys now. We're back. You know what I mean? Y'all want to shit on us? I don't think so. Not anymore. The powerhouse is here, baby. Canada's finding these grave sites of kids. I'm like, bring it on. Love it. I mean, I don't. But you know what I mean? It's like, score another one for us. Like, we're getting these W's now. Just so many L's, L after L. It's been so rough. And now I love to see these W's coming in. And I'm a fair weather fan. That's just what it is. Because, you got to root for something. You know what I mean? We got festivals coming back. That's what I'm thinking about. Y'all are out here like, oh, can we please have the patents? No, I wouldn't give them to them either. Fuck y'all. Where were y'all? You know what I mean? Where was everybody else? Nobody was helping us. Boy, oh boy, did we need it. Love to be back. Right on top. Right where we belong. Let's go. I'm ready. It's going to be a great decade. That's the declaration that I'm making right here, right now. I'm feeling it. I got the mate. I got the red, white, and the blue by my side at all times. And people just don't want to embrace it. It's really sad. I saw an article on AV Club the other day. I don't know why I still have the tab saved. Like, I'm going to go back to that site. It's so horrific. It used to be so good. It used to be fun. Good movie reviews and such. Boy, it just really has taken a turn. This headline, I'm going to paraphrase, but, not by much. I want you to know that when I'm paraphrasing this, it's pretty close. I just don't know it verbatim, right? But this headline was like, vaccinated people allowed to go to AMC and also liars. And it's like, why are you fucking whining? Shut the fuck up. Could you imagine just sitting around and just wanting to narc on people that bad, or just like caring them? It's like, dude, I mean, I know I said this on the last one, but it just keeps happening. It's like, dude, if you're good, you're good. It's just like, why do you care? If somebody else is lying, let them lie. You know, I mean, it doesn't affect you anymore. Never did. I mean, I guess it kind of could have, right? That was the whole thing. But it's just like, fuck. For people that hate cops, y'all really want to just be cops about everything all the time. It's pretty awful. I saw this sign. It was like a written poster and marker. It was just like, fuck bipartisan this and whatever. And like a list of things that are like, fuck half of the entire country. And it's like, well, you should probably think about that. You know what I mean? It's just like, what? Is this like your Antifa poster? Because that's not what those words mean. It's like, it was the least rational thing I've ever seen. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to get behind that. I don't know what you think you're promoting, but you're not. It's crazy. We're back. You know what I mean? Let's let the flags fly. Fuck it. You know? What's it going to take? We going to need another 9/11? Can't we just use let's use the 20th anniversary as fuel. Let's just remember what that was like. Let's reel it in. All right? We got to wrap it up quick. You know what I mean? It's like it's like I recently referenced, like the Entourage series finale. It's like, oh shit, it's over? Fuck, what are we doing? Or Dexter, for that matter. Don't even get me started on that piece of shit. They're bringing that back. They put a little teaser. And it's like, I don't know. The ending of that show was it was the worst thing I've ever seen. Probably. At least like a thing where there was like a serious, faithful attempt at like, we're going to crush it. We're going to blow people away. And they were like, everybody, I remember all the reports because it was a big deal. You know, there's a bunch of articles coming in. It was a relatively popular show, especially for Showtime. I mean, it was the number one, I believe. And they're like, I think we nailed it. I think the fans are going to be thrilled or whatever. You know what I mean? Like everything along those lines. And it's just like, well, first of all, the last 2 seasons haven't been good. So I'm doubtful. And then, wow, that whole thing was atrocious. That whole last season, the finale, just goes against everything. It's so bad. And I think like the reports, I guess there's nothing confirmed anymore. This was all like the initial speculation. It was like when they were even just like in talks of doing it, but they were like, yeah, it might just be a reboot where we just like do our own thing with the character. Because like it's originally based on books, and I read the books and they're good. I have 2 left technically in the series. I don't know if I'll ever get there, to be honest. I'm disappointed in myself for it because they're good. They're consistently good. Like if you compare it to the show, it outranks it in like front to back. Like, but the peaks of the show are obviously way higher. The show only copies the first book for the first season, and then it goes on its own anyway. But yeah, it might be set in like a completely different place, and it might not be like related, like a continuation of the end of the last show, which is like, no, you have to redeem that. You can't just be like, oh, we fucked up so bad, we're going to start over, but like same guy. It just makes it complicated. So I hope that that's not the case. Because, I mean, I'm going to give it a shot. I have to. That was, like, my favorite show in high school. It was, like, I was reading the books at the same time. I was actually watching that show through original Netflix. So it was 1 disc at a time. So I could only watch, like, 3 episodes. Because we only got 1 disc. We had, like, the basic tier. And so I'd watch 3 episodes, and then it would take like 6 days total for me to get the next one. It was tough. You kids don't get it. But then, eventually I caught up and I was live, and then it was just, Jesus. It was just so sad to imagine you start Breaking, I kind of did this with Breaking Bad. I started Breaking Bad right after season 4 ended, so I watched the last 2 seasons live. The greatest moments in television. I'd never had that feeling. I remember being out with a group of my friends, and we got into our car, we packed into 2 cars and drove so we wouldn't miss the episode. It was the third to last or something. It was just what a time. Pure magic. Anyway, imagine you do that, and then the 5th season is just horrific. You watch all of this. It's some of the best TV you've ever seen up to that point in your life, at least. And even in time, Dexter was really, really good at the time, and it was buzzing, and it was huge. And then as soon as you're caught up, the first season you watch is just dog shit. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. It was very personal for me. I took it very personally. But it's when people talk about the Seinfeld ending being bad, which I've mentioned, I don't understand that at all. The Dexter and if you compare it to the Dexter ending, it is Citizen Kane. It is The Godfather. I mean, I can't. It's they used one of those bot algorithms to write a Dexter twist. They use M. Night Shyamalan plus every Dexter script, and they algorithmed. Just what a dog shit. It looked shitty too. The show lost all of its production value as it went on too. It was wild. Usually a show's budget will go up over time. Most of it's to cast. Or just it'll jump the shark and try to be more extreme, and it'll lose story, much like a sequel. But I don't know. How can you recover? They would have to. That's the thing. It's no matter how good the next version is, I don't know why I'm going on a Dexter rant right now. I didn't really plan this, but it's fine. No matter how good the next version is, this is the last thing I'm going to say. It's just however long it runs, it could be one of the best shows you've ever seen, and an improvement in every way over the original. Unless they do a great ending to it whenever it ends, it doesn't count. Because that's what they have to make up for. The show being really, really good at its peak, and then kind of slumping over time. Whatever, it was just on too long. That happens, but the ending is unforgivable. So that, the redemption of that is almost impossible. So we're going to move on. There's a little Dexter for you. Again, I take it very seriously. It hurts me what they did. You couldn't ask the book author to come back. I don't know. Just everything about it. He just carries her out of a hospital during a hurricane? What? He abandons his son? He would never do that. It's terrible. But I mean, speaking of questionable character motivations, guess who's a nitpicker? Here we go. It's time. We're going to go through it. The new HBO sensation. It's time for Mare of Easttown. We're going to talk about it. Let's talk about it. Starring Kate Winslet, who I just have to say, multiple times throughout watching this, I thought to myself, she's a national treasure. And then I was like, oh my God, she's British or whatever. She's not even fucking American. She's that good. You know what I mean? It's I'm aware I'm watching Kate Winslet, always, no matter what. But I do genuinely forget that she's not American. She is so believably American. Like, she has the mannerisms and like all the. She's good at being a sloppy lady. I don't know what it is, but she's good at having a ponytail and a greasy face and being kind of believable. I don't really know how to attack this because this show. I mean, I talked about it with top 5, interestingly, in the last episode. It casts a lot of net. Casts a wide net, a lot of loose threads. There we go. That's what I'm thinking of. A lot of train tracks crossing, noodling around, and a lot of it doesn't work for me. But a lot of it is great, and I'm being vague. Again, there's going to be spoilers, so we're going to dive in. I might need notes, but I'm excited. Okay, so Mare of Easttown. Here we go. First things first, I was asking my buddy Juan, shout out to Juan, the other day. I was like, oh, have you watched Mare of Easttown? Because, I was hearing a buzz, kept seeing it on HBO, getting plugged. Saw a couple people talking about it on pods, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, oh, what is that, about a horse? And I was like, what? Didn't even know that a mare is technically a female horse, like an adult one or a teen one or whatever, some kind of a certainly aged female horse. Didn't know that. It has nothing to do with a horse. If anyone thought it maybe had something to do with a horse, because you know more words than me, that would be technically a good guess, but no. Just so you know, it's just a woman named Mare, which it is misleading. It doesn't look right, and the title seems like it would be like a Downton Abbey, Mare of Easttown, and also like it sounds like you're telling people it's Mayor of Easttown, so. Not a great title, I just gotta say. Not a fan. It wants to be John from Cincinnati, which, by the way, I mentioned I got the DVD and I was like, I'm gonna watch it and then probably talk about it. Haven't watched it. Tough sell, I gotta say. I was expecting this whole other thing just based on what it's described as, and it's kind of just not that good. So far, I mean, I don't know. I only watched the first episode, but it wasn't very good. So, it might just be bad, and that's why it is what it was, and whatever. But anyway, so Kate Winslet. I mean, I said this in the run up on the last one. Basically, been in love with her my entire life. I mean, Titanic. You don't need to say anything. Eternal Sunshine, you don't need to say anything. She was great in Contagion. She's great in fucking everything. Here, you want to go down a list of Kate Winslets? Let's go down a list of Kate Winslets real quick. I'm just going to go through the ones that I see where I'm like, oh my God, can you even fucking believe it? Okay, Heavenly Creature, still haven't seen it, but I mean, come on. Titanic, obviously. I don't even know a lot of these, so I mean, she's in a lot of shit. Jesus, she was in Finding Neverland. Didn't even know that. Never saw it. Flushed Away. Come on, that was okay. Revolutionary Road. That was a big deal because it was their reunion thing. Steve Jobs. She was so good in Steve Jobs. Very underrated movie. That movie's a fucking masterpiece. I absolutely love it, especially as a Steve Jobs guy. And I mean, come on. How do you compare to Kate Winslet? She is just absolutely beautiful and just an unbelievable actress. She completely morphs into whoever she is every single time. You can't really tell. I will say, so my biggest thing about this is just that we're supposed to believe that Kate Winslet, who looks like Kate Winslet, just without makeup. I did quotes as I did that because I mean, I assume that everybody on any high-profile show is covered in makeup, even when their look is no makeup. So, either way, her look is no makeup, and we're supposed to believe that she's just like slamming cheesesteaks and drinking brews, throwing them back, just nonstop. But she looks like Kate Winslet. You know what I mean? It's just like, come on. Never exercises once. Because, so what this show, the basic concept of this show, I didn't even really mention it, is she's a detective in Easttown, Pennsylvania, which I think is outside of Philly. Maybe it's outside of Pittsburgh. I don't know. It's small town Pennsylvania. And it's like a little town. Everybody knows everybody. So that's the thing. It's like the quintessential Midwest thing. This is trying to like portray what that's like. But the Pennsylvania version, which is like mining and like grimy and it's shitty. Pennsylvania's shitty from what I gather. Not that anywhere is great, I guess. But I mean, come on, Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? So it's, like I said, there's a lot of threads. So her personal life is a mess. But the overall thing that is going on during this is a teen mom gets murdered. Now, that's the central thing of this. And while that is happening, she's also has been investigating another girl in town who had been missing for a year. That girl's mom has cancer because, of course, she gets better, though. So, I mean, good. I'm glad that they just, like, didn't plow that down. But, which made sense because she got her. We'll get there. So, she's doing all that, dealing with her family, dealing with all this. And then it just gets into the lives of everybody in town, da-da-da-da-da. So this show tries to be a lot of things. It's like Twin Peaks. Like, this show has the basic exact beats 100% of Twin Peaks. It's like detective in a small town gets help from a greater police service. In this case, it's not the FBI because it's in-town murders, but like a county sheriff joins. Young girl dead, naked in the water. I mean, it goes on and on. Like, there's multiple murders. Are they connected? I'll get to them as I come across them, I guess. But like, on so many levels, it's just like a direct ripoff of Twin Peaks in so many ways. Like, the best friend and all the other high school people are withholding certain information to try to protect them / investigate themselves. It's just like every single thing across the board, which is fine. I mean, one of the greatest shows of all time. It's in my top 5. Get it? Top 5 reference. Listen to last week's episode. But it is in my top 5, obviously. It tries to be it tries to be a little bit funny. It tries to be like True Detective. It tries to be Cobra Kai with like its teen thing, which I'll get into. It's a fucking disaster. It just tries to be like a little bit of everything. And I will say, while it doesn't accomplish most of those, that's not true. It's good when it's a thriller. It's good when it's a comedy. It's not great at anything else. The drama stuff is bad. The positive, I guess, stuff is ferociously bad. It just tries to do too much, but it never fails at being entertaining. So, like, overall, I like this show, and it was a success, I would say. I mean, obviously, it was literally very successful, but, like, I guess I don't know what it was trying to accomplish, but it kept me entertained. So it nailed that, which is probably first and foremost, but just like as a story, a lot of things that happen don't make any sense, and it's just like crazy. Because it tries to build this world of this town, and you're like, it's like tries to do a thing where like, oh, it shows you the lives of everybody and every character. which in turn should mean that like you get to know people, but then like nobody behaves how you would expect them to then after that. So it's like, why did we do this? I think it suffers from being like 2 episodes too long because everything just kind of unravels at the end. And I'm just going to have to dive in. There's no way to keep tiptoeing around it. So let's go cast first. Jean Smart, she was excellent. Like, excellent. Who was also crushing it in, I briefly mentioned, Hacks, which I might do when the season's over, because that show's great. If you're not watching Hacks, go watch Hacks also. Fucking Roy from The Office, who has aged 40 years since his role in that show. But he was really good, so he's gotten better at acting. That's for sure. Guy Pearce, who I don't like because Memento is bad, but he was in it. We'll get into him. He played the only guy in town who understands that Kate Winslet is hot. Somehow, like the only 2 people in this entire show that are attracted to Kate Winslet are from out of town, and that's supposed to be, I guess, because like everyone in town is sick of her bullshit. Because that's the thing, right? Mare's this like, oh, she's such a difficult, tough, hard-headed lady. She's the detective who just don't quit, and people are like, Mare, come on, Mare. I'll get into that, but so that's what we're supposed to believe. And the detective from out of town, who you may not know, I don't even know his fucking name, but he was the best friend in Never Back Down, a very, 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 very underrated movie about MMA that I have always loved. So shout out to that guy. He gets shot in the head at some point. Again, I told you there was spoilers. Okay. So anyway, episode at a time. So you learn all that stuff about Mare, basically. Everybody's shitting on her. The news is going crazy because they haven't found that girl in a year. And she's like, I'm working hard. And they're like, it's not about you, Mare. And she's like, you're literally yelling at me saying I'm incompetent. And she's like, I just want my daughter back, though. And it's like you can see both sides. But nobody else does. Everybody's just like, Mare's the worst. The whole time. And so what gets revealed kind of piece by piece, that's the thing. They tried to do like so many tropes of modern television that just don't work within the family. So like what gets revealed over time is that Mare's son, I'm going to try to do all these threads. I'm going to have to try to piece it together. So Mare's son, he just had like a bunch of like mood disorders and stuff, and then became like a drug addict, and they like show all that, and then he eventually killed himself. So that's like the big reveal. And then they reveal that like the daughter found him, and I'll get to that. But so like Mare hasn't ever really recovered from that. It split up their family. They got divorced. The husband lives in the back, like across the yard. He moved in and lives with some lady. And everybody's just like, oh, look at Mare. She's a piece of shit. It's just like, what did she ever do? Right? And they reveal like, oh, she pushed everyone away. But it's like her kid killed himself. And everybody just like treats her like garbage. So that never really adds up. She's like a little rude. They act like, there's a couple times when she like uses people, but it's like for investigation. It's never for like any personal gain. So this weird thing where like everybody just hates this chick, it's pretty wild. Like even her mom and her daughter, like nobody has any empathy for her ever. And it makes no sense because like all anybody ever acknowledges is how much she's been through, but like nobody ever has any inkling of like respect for her. or anything. Everybody treats her like dirt the whole time, and it makes no sense because the show is also like, it wants it to be like, oh, look at what she's supposed to be, this like great detective apparently, because she solves all these crimes single-handedly basically. And in the first episode, so this is where it's like true detective-y and like Twin Peaksy. They show the girl leading up to her death, and it's brutal. Like, her dad like beats the shit out of her. Her baby daddy treats her like shit, and the girl dating the baby daddy is like, why are you texting my man? And she's like, that's the father of my son, so like we need to be in touch. And she's like, I'll fucking kill you. And it's like, okay, I've watched enough Springer to know that this is actually pretty realistic. So I'll let this slide. And then they go to meet out in the woods, because I guess, when you're a scumbag in Pennsylvania, you hang out in the woods. I buy it, I guess. And they catfished this single mom with an abusive father because she was texting her man. And then they beat the shit out of her. Like, the dude is there, and it's just like, why would anybody do this? This is pretty wild. And then she wanders off into the woods and gets murdered. And it's like, oh, what happened, right? So it's supposed to be this, like, grave mystery. Like, how do we uncover it? But then very little detail is put into solving it, I feel like. Because, I don't know, like, True Detective's whole thing was like, how did you solve this murder? And then Mare of Easttown just, it's like, okay, this murder happened, but then it's like, okay, let's dive into like 9 other personal familial things. And it just disconnects. So, okay, they're good friends with like their neighbor. Or not neighbor, but just like Mare's best friend has a daughter with Down syndrome, a son who is like hiding something and has like anger problems, and then like the dad had previously cheated on the mom. And it's just like, this is it. Like, that's the thing. It's like, how many million little things? Like, how is it everyone in this town's lives are this complicated? Like, every single person has been through so much shit in this town, and they try to make it all seem like it's very essential to the story, and a lot of it is just like really useless things that they just threw in there because they had a bunch of characters. Right? Like, for example, okay, so like Mare's daughter. This is a perfect example of like a character that would normally be accused of being underwritten, but then you see why that they would be underwritten, because they're useless, right? So this girl is the only one basically in the entire town with a level head who isn't a complete fucking mess, right? They reveal that she later on that she walked in on her brother, like she found him hanging. She was traumatized by that because she got drunk once and cried. And then that was it. And she got over it really quick. And she showed no signs of it affecting her beforehand also. So basically, this is what bothers me about this show. Like, this plot line specifically, it's the worst in the show because, okay, so her daughter is a lesbian, which is fine, but again, she's the only character in the whole show who has her shit together. So she's in a band who is somehow playing all these gigs, and they're playing like live on the radio, and she's the one who like has it all together. Everyone else in the band is a complete fuck up, and the radio DJ just starts hitting on her. And they start going out, and they have this like perfect relationship with like unbelievable communication and like smiles and attraction. And she's like, oh, I have connections at Berkeley. I could get you into Berkeley. And then she's like, oh, I don't want to leave you. And she's like, oh, baby, I wouldn't hold you back. And it's just like all this like magic and like perfectness. And it just drives me insane because it's just like, why would this be the most put together person? Like, she would have the most to go through. You know what I mean? Like, of all the things everybody's going through in this town, And the plot, again, it has nothing to do with the story ever. It's like just so you're up to date with the daughter. And it turns into like Riverdale. Or like I said, like Cobra Kai. Like it literally reminds me of the dialogue that people that are dating on Cobra Kai have. Like that's how these two chicks talk to each other. And my complaint is just that it doesn't fit into the show at all. Like this is a detective show about murders. And so it's like, why are we doing this weird teen romance thing that literally like never has any drama in it at all, really? Like she has an ex that shows up to their house at one point and like lies and says that she knew about it, right? And then she sees her walk in with her new girl and freaks out, knocks the grandma down. And then there are no repercussions from it. You think like, oh, maybe the grandma's going to have like brain damage now. No. It was like a bit. And it was like, oh, so this was for nothing. It literally never links back into the plot at all. And it's also just like, it's like, how woke can we be? Like, we need a woke storyline, right? Because this whole, I mean, it's like a scumbag town. It's trying to show like how the opioid epidemic has hit like rural and suburban America. Because it opens, I'm bouncing all over the place. I know, I'm sorry. But I'm trying to nitpick the main points that I don't, that really irked me first. I want to get that out of the way. And so, yeah, there's like, they show that there's like people on heroin, people having pill issues. That's why like the girls that went missing, they like were normal girls who fell into opioid addiction, who started like tricking for cash. You know, the old true story. Or whatever. Tried and true. And so it's depicting all that stuff, right? And then like, I don't know. You know, it's just a bunch of like trashy people. But then it's like, oh, look, the lesbian girl's got all her shit together. But like she has no reason to have her shit together. Her entire family is a disaster. You know, I get it that like, but like Mare is the strong one. That's the thing. It's not like she's weak or like she's kind of a bad mom, to be honest. She's not really there for her kids at all. Right? And that's like the worst thing about her, I would say. But like the relationship is clearly fucked up and da-da-da-da-da. But she's like so like level-headed and perfect. And it's just like, look at how we write these great LGBTQ characters. And it's just like, this doesn't make any sense, you know? And then they have I brought up the character with Down syndrome, right? Because like, you know, that's nice, I guess. Yeah, people have Down syndrome, representation. But there's a scene where she is walking through a cafeteria and this dude just starts throwing shit at her. And it's like, yeah, maybe that happens, but there's no situation where like an entire group of people is like laughing at that and then like nobody's doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, even when I was in high school, if somebody like was fucking with anybody mentally challenged, like somebody would yell at them back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't let that shit stand. And there's no way that an entire cafeteria would look on. And basically all I'm saying is like, all that the show did was like throw a bunch of shit at a mentally challenged girl on camera. It like doesn't show anything or accomplish anything. And then like a crazy, like one of the, like the friend's kid who I mentioned earlier, who is her brother, beats the shit out of the kid with a tray. And it's like, yeah, he should. This isn't good. So like, I'm glad that happened. And like, but like, what was this scene for? Because they used it as a thing of like, look at this kid's emotional outburst. And his mom was like, why did you do that? Is your dad cheating on me again? And he's like, yeah. And it's like, what? Why wouldn't you just be like, like, regardless of whether or not you're emotional right now, how about I beat the shit out of that kid for fucking with my mentally challenged sister? You know what I mean? It's just like, none of that made any sense to me. I was watching, I was like, holy shit. But literally every time any of the relationship stuff happens, I was like, I would out loud be like, this is awful. Like, this is terrible. It was like, the show would go from HBO quality, intense suspense, crime, detective work, and then it would switch to a CW show. And it's just like, did they just feel like, how do we make this every type of thing? Like, were you condemned to try to make Mare of Easttown appeal to like a millennial audience as well? Like, make this some kind of crossover hit because there's a B plot about a lesbian couple? It's just like, come on. I'm just saying, like, you want it to be about representation or whatever. It's like, as a guy with a lesbian sister and a Down syndrome cousin, I don't know if that's an appropriate way to say that. It sounded bad. I'm sorry. She's great. It's just like, I can say that that's not how it went for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't line up with how my sister's experience went. I can tell you that. It wasn't that easy. She wasn't like super well adjusted at 16 and didn't also go through, you know what I mean? It's just like, just putting it in there and then making them great and writing them like any, you know what I mean? It just doesn't accomplish what you're trying to do. And also, isn't the whole thing like, shouldn't those type of people be involved? Not that I know anything about the people who made it, but I'm pretty sure it's just created by some white guy. You know, I don't know any details about him or what his stat. You know what I mean? But it's just like, what are we doing here? This is all unnecessary. This is supposed to be a show about finding these, because like the daughter is never like in danger or involved in any way. And they like try to mislead you and think like, oh, maybe it could be this guy or that guy. But then they like debunk it really quick. And it's like, okay, I don't really understand what you're going for here. They like want you to think it's this guy, but then they're like, oh, wait, no, it's definitely not that guy. Whereas like a thing like Twin Peaks was like, oh, it literally could be anybody, and we're going to give you a bunch of reasons to think it's everybody. And I feel like this show like wanted to do that, but then they would just squash it all instantly. So I don't know. And then so like the new detective comes into town and they investigate the scene at the park. They get a bunch of dogs to sniff ballistics because they found a finger there from the girl. So it's like, okay. Also similar to like Finding an Ear in Blue Velvet. It's just like, come on, guys. You know, make it a little less clear. I don't know. But yeah, then of course, Mare does it herself. Like, why did she need the dogs? I don't know. Because they like found the area of the bullet and then she solves it. They're like, we've been here for 5 hours. And of course, 5 hours in, Mare just working hard. It's just like, is this believable? I don't know. Hard to say. But it's just like, that seems to be pretty great detective work that nobody's appreciative of. Again. Just the other guy. Again, like just the guy from out of town. He's the only one who's like, damn, she's like incredible. Do you guys not get this? And yeah, so that was the other side story about her other guy. So she meets a writer at a bar and he's like, you're fucking Kate Winslet. Like, you're one of the most beautiful women on earth. And she's like, fuck you. Let me get a cheesesteak. I'm in Philly. And it's like, okay, Kate Winslet. But yeah, they end up dating and whatever. But like kind of. Like they never really commit to it being a plot line where she's like, I'm dating a guy. No, I'm not. And then he's just like not in 2 episodes. And then she's just like, sorry, I blew you off. And it's just like, oh, we didn't even like cover that in the show. I was like, yeah, how does this even make sense? Because she accepted a date with another guy on the same night, right? And you're like, oh, are they going to like meet? Is this going to be like an awkward thing where she gets confronted and it's like, oh, look at Mare sabotaging again. And it's just like, no, they just don't acknowledge it. It's just weird holes like that. And then, so eventually, so this is what bothers me about a lot of these detective shows. Eventually the solution is just like some witness comes forward that never did before. And I guess the thing is, like, eventually they looked down all the right places until they knew what they were looking for. But it just seemed like, oh, all of a sudden, here's a witness. And it's just like, oh, well, now we've solved the case. And it's just like, oh, so it's just over like that? It's just weird to me. Like, there's never, like, I don't know. I feel like in a detective show, especially when it's just like it's like 4 or 5 episodes of you like trying to figure this out with the context of this case is already a year old. There should be like a build and then like an aha eureka moment. But literally they're just like, this girl is like, yep. I don't know. All of a sudden, they find a guy with a van who kidnapped the girls. And they just reveal that the girls are there and that they found the house. Like, there's no suspense. Like, is this maybe the guy? You just know instantly that they're at the right place. And then you also know that there's 2 episodes left. You know what I mean? Like, they basically did what happens at the end of True Detective when there's the big confrontation. They did that in episode 5 of 7. And there was still, like, some more story to be told, but, like, this is a thing that had been going on until before the show had even started. It was a big reason why there's animosity towards the main character, and they just, like, solve it real quick. And the partner, unfortunately, gets capped. And basically no one is stoked that Mare solved this case. Like, they kind of acknowledge that, like, she got some credit. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to mention. Of course, they throw in a thing that gets her suspended. So she's, like, off the case, quote unquote. And she's, like, working on it off the case because it's the biggest trope of all time. And the problem with that is that she suffers, like, 0 repercussions from it. Normally, the thing is they keep catching her working on the case. And, like, you got to stop working on this case. Like, you're really going to fuck up. And it's, like, a back and forth. She just does it the whole time really casually and really easily with, like, 0 effort. And it's like, why did you even need to suspend her from the case? You know? And it was technically because of another thread where, like, her dead son's drug addict baby mama. Sorry, it's hard. It's a lot of threads. Bigger family than me in this fucking show. She wants the baby back, so she planted drugs on her, but she instantly got caught planting the drugs. And so she's on suspension. And it's just like, okay. And literally nothing else comes of it. Again, like I said, yeah, she's technically suspended. She gets back on the force. It doesn't affect her negatively in any other way. Doesn't affect the other chick negatively in any way. It was just useless. It was to, like, add a little bit of conflict that ends up not mattering at all. It's just a lot of things. It's like, why did we need to do this? They could. The thing is, like, we're going in the opposite direction of ideas that maybe start as a movie and get expanded into a show because all the reasons. I mean, more episodes is just more money and more content, more writing. Again, content, that's the problem. Like, you want more. Not that this could have been a movie, but that's the thing. The idea of, like, oh, we should expand upon everything. Not everything does. Like, not every character needs to be present and have their own story. Some people are a small part of the story. You know? And this show just, like, doesn't want that to be true. It wants everybody to have its own little thing. Like, whatever happened, like, whenever, like, 8 years ago, when, like, the Netflix shows and, like, Atlanta, they started doing, and, like, Master of None in Atlanta, I remember at, like, a similar time. It was like, oh, one episode's just the girls, one episode's a whole new perspective. Like, oh, isn't this a fresh, cool thing? And then you notice, like, oh, every show's doing this now. It's like trying to do that still. It's like, we don't need to do this. You know, it's cool that they combined, like, the detective thing with, like, a soap opera-y family thing. It's just that it went too far. You know, if it could have, because, like, the Jean Smart stuff with her daughter is great. Her daughter is Kate Winslet, sorry. And it works really well, and they're both great. But then, like, when you get into, like, neighboring families and, like, all of this, it wants to expand into this, like, big universe, or, like, it wants to be The Wire, where, like, The Wire has 250 characters. it just doesn't have the chops for it. It's just overly ambitious is its biggest flaw. You know what I mean? They have a plot line with like a priest with a questionable past. And they try to make him like maybe the murderer. But again, like they do it like half-assed and not really that convincingly. So you're not that interested in it. And then the reveal is like, oh yeah, he's actually not that bad of a guy. And it's like, oh, all right. Well, did we need to even have him be in the show? You know, like they're trying to do a thing where it adds depth. Like, oh, he was friends with the girl who died. And that's a thing because blah, blah, blah. But they just don't really go down that path that much. Like, they do a thing where they just, like, kind of mention stuff, and it's supposed to, like, carry weight, I guess, and then they don't really act on it. And yeah, I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, so they slowly reveal through time again with like the kids withholding information. They kind of just start slowly revealing stuff, and then they find out that there's like a bunch of these girls are just like trying to be hookers for money. The girl that died needs it for surgery for her baby because nobody will help her because everybody's terrible. And then you reveal that it's like incestuous, and then this and this, and then they solve again. The other girls are chained up. They just solve it. Nobody cares. And then they find out that the teen girl murder was an incestuous thing from the friend whose daughter has Down syndrome and the son beat the guy up, right? The dad cheats, but he also cheats with his cousin's daughter, who is the girl that got murdered, and that's whose baby it is, right? So it's like, oh my God, that's crazy. Small town Midwestern incest scandal, probably a thing, right? And that's a crazy big reveal because they also like slightly misdirect you that it's his brother, but they like do it with a pretty open hand, and you're like, oh no, it's him. But they try to pull it, and then there's another episode, and this is the problem. And then they try to pull it like, oh wait, double twist, it was actually their kid, and it's like, oh, that's very underwhelming and stupid. And the whole last episode was a shit show, and I was really excited for it. I watched all of these direct, so I wasn't keeping up week by week. I went front to back. I started at like 4 o'clock to line up so the last episode would be out by the time I catch up. And the last episode was just awful. They just reveal like, oh, it was actually like a 12-year-old kid who's dumb. He's just so dumb that he killed a girl. And it's like, oh, that's what this whole thing was? You guys really should have like wrapped this up first and then leaned into finding the other guy and made that way more intense. Because they literally just go up to this guy's house he keeps women hostage in his home. And he just lets the police in because they ask. You can say no. You know what I mean? Like, how many times have we seen in a detective thing where they question the killer and then they leave? And it's like, fuck, come on, guys, that was him. But no, it just like wrapped up pretty quick. It's like, oh, all right. Guess that's it. And that's the biggest thing that I have to say about this show is that it opened up a lot of cans of worms and it caught a couple of fish. Because the guy who was misleading, who thought he was the baby daddy of the girl that got murdered, he was just a monster. But then they're like, oh wait, he has a soft side. Right? Because he helps jump his baby mama. He then like disowns the kid upon finding out it's not his. He then puts a gun in her best friend's face because they don't want to reveal the truth so that the baby can keep being cared for, because he then has a change of heart and is like, okay, we should take care of this kid. He then gets it. It takes his baby mama being murdered and him finding out he's not the dad to realize, oh, we should take care of this kid. That makes sense. But yeah, he basically like runs around like a menace. He like is kind of the Bobby Briggs, but not really, because Bobby Briggs is a great man. He was just troubled. Big Bobby Briggs guy. It's tough at first, but he only succeeds over time, especially season 3. And yeah, like the daughter eventually just moves to Berkeley. She just gets into Berkeley. Just goes well. Everything just goes well. Her life's just great. And there's never a question about money. Nobody's like, how you going to afford it? Nope. Like, this daughter is like the greatest daughter in the history of everything. Terrible character. Yeah, and then at the end they reveal that like she had been dating that guy, but then he leaves her. And it's like, okay, was I supposed to be emotionally invested? The guy hasn't been in like the last 3 episodes and we haven't even seen them interact. So it's like, why even include this? So that's dumb. And it just keeps going. Like they wrap up all these things by it all just being like, this is how it is. Everything's squeaky clean now because like Mare went to therapy. Like that's the big emotional thing. Mare like gets bullied into therapy because of her suspension, and it just works. Problem solved. Everything's good now. And it's like, wait, so the lesson from this show was like go to therapy? I don't know. It's just like, what? I don't understand. There was such mixed messages and like, I don't know what they want you to take away from it. Again, thoroughly entertained. Like, it's just weird that it's like, it has this like critical acclaim, and I was just expecting this like detective, like prestige thriller drama. And instead it's like I don't know, a really high quality soap. It's like a high quality HBO soap opera. You know, like with detective stuff. Like that's the back setting of it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I left a bunch of stuff out too. But like, I don't know. I like some of the things that it's going for, you know, and that it's trying to showcase all these things. But it's just too much. It just tries to do way too much. I don't know. Maybe watching it all at once really threw me off. But like most of the acting throughout it is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. Like it's shot really well. The music's good. Like Kate Winslet is through the roof this entire time. The biggest flaw of her performance is it's just her fault for being that beautiful. And like you know what I mean? So it's just crazy that she would be that beautiful and nobody would really care. Ever. Or that she would just be like still that hot. I don't know. I guess I just wanted to gripe about it. Because I didn't say a lot of good things. But I mean, yeah, so like if you're interested in the thing, it's like, oh, these people are doing all this shady stuff, and it's like, the old people, we're gonna call there's like neighbors who have a camera, and there's like jokes in there, and we call back to it, but it's like the payoff of their callbacks aren't great because they're never presented in a great way. So it's like I'm not invested in. You get invested in the things that they don't care about, and they want you to be invested in random shit. It's like they don't even know what the important parts are of their own story. If that makes sense. I don't know. I wonder if anybody agrees with me. Because it kind of just seems like this is just getting like super love. And it's like, yeah, I love Kate Winslet. She's great, but I don't know. That ending was horrific. That's where Dexter came up. I just didn't want to admit it. And then it's like, oh, the kid's in jail. Look at him thriving now. And it's like, this is so stupid. This doesn't make any fucking sense. It's like, look at the positive impact being in juvie has on this kid after murdering somebody. It was just wild. I don't know. But Kate Winslet, just what a dream. I absolutely love it. And like the suspense parts, again, like I really only don't like the more dramatic parts because they're just so all over the place. The actual suspense and thriller elements of this show are top notch. Like, so don't get me wrong, like come for that, stay for some corny shit, and I don't know, try to leave the room and make food while the daughter and her relationship stuff is going on, because it serves no purpose and it's just agony. Because she's not a great actor, and the dialogue, that's the biggest problem, though. The dialogue that is given for them, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy to perform. There's just no hope. Like, when have you ever had a conversation with someone you're dating where you're like, okay, so she was like, I don't know if I want to go to Berkeley. I don't want to leave you. And she's like, don't make decisions because of me. Like, you should live your life. You know, you're a kid who should go to college, right? And she's like, look, girl, I like you. You're smart. You're funny. The sex is good. And it's just like, who is talking to people like this? Like, you're just listing all the things. You know what I mean? It's just like the most generic, lame writing you could ever think of for those scenes. But then they were able to come up with all these intricate other little plot lines for the crime, like all these layers that were missing in the journals and the secrets and the whatever, right? I just don't get why that was even in there. You know? Like, why couldn't Mare have been a lesbian? Then that's interesting. I guess she can't have a bunch of kids then. Well, she could. Anybody can be anything. Men can have kids. Don't forget that. But you know what I mean? It's just like somebody else could have had that story and like have a sad life. It's just like, it's glorified. I don't know. I don't need to harp on just that one part. But that plot line is so bad. Anyway, watch Mare of Easttown. That was me dragging on it for a while, ruining the show. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Rate, review, subscribe. Comment. Listen to my music. Buy some merch. All linked below. Watch Mare of Easttown. Watch Hacks, though. You want to see some good Jean Smart? Watch both. A lot of good Jean Smart. What a year for Jean Smart. That's all I got to say. And every year is a great year for Kate Winslet. I love you, Kate Winslet. Only 45 years old. Which, considering I have watched her my entire life, you would think that she would be much older. But I guess that also adds up at the same time. So, that's that. I'm calfed up, so I don't know how that went. Hopefully it went well. If not, we'll do better the next time. This is Adam Pecora. Thanks for listening. But don't forget, I are fat. You are fat. We are fat. Calculator.